Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the morning dump. It's Thursday, May 21st. I'm your host, Jose Galison, and this is the kitty of the day. This is Phoebe, one of the queens of our litter. She's currently early on with babies. She is pregger. She is a sweet mama. She is just sitting here purring like crazy right now. She's a pretty lady too, bicolor tabby. But with that, for those who like seeing my hot takes Monday through Friday, typically around 11 a.m. Eastern, we made it today. That's what we shoot for. We don't always make it. Or if you just like seeing the kitties of the day, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when we're dropping new videos and when we're going live. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day. I am alright.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to the white light.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
Crazy evil.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a good one. We're gonna get into some stuff today. We have plenty to go through. As always, we start off the show with some icebreaker content, as we like to call it. I have a few different things to go through today. That's where we typically keep the more funny gen pop slop sort of stuff. That's usually where we keep it. That's where we ease our way into the stream. And then we take a harsh 180 over into our foreign policy roundup, which comes right after our icebreaker coverage. And then we'll get into our named segments of the day. We have Trump corruption. There's a whole lot of that going about. So we have plenty of that to cover. And then lifestyles of the Epstein elite. We had a few different stories that came out. There was a Elon expose about some of the weird stuff he does. And then also some more came out on the Alexander brothers. So we'll be kind of looking. I mean, we'll be having fun with it being a little salacious, but we'll be factual. We'll be referring to the files, stuff like that. But with that, I do like to remind you guys, as always, I timestamp all these segments, and this is intended to be like a live stream experience. We're hanging out with the people. Interactive, all that, but not everybody everybody listens or views it in that way. You may be catching the replay, and so you may not appreciate the chat banter, and so you may want to jump around from segment to segment. And I totally get that. You want to essentially somehow get past all the chat. Well, how you do that is look down to your video or podcast description. Once we start you talking chat stuff, you can tell that means we're coming to the end of the segment. And so just boom, hit the timestamp. Most of them are hyperlinked these days, and it'll bring you right on to the next one. And that way you can skip all the chat banter. With the chat banter, for those who are here for that, you guys do get, I try to give you guys all at least one good morning. After that, you got to catch my interest or catch my wallet. So you can drop a super chat if you'd like, or I don't know, just be interesting enough. So it really depends on the day, but I like to hang out with the chat. Depends on also how I'm doing managing my time. But with that, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get into our icebreaker content for the day. Starting off, I've had a few of you guys tag me in this, which I guess is a little bit of a casual reminder that you guys do contribute to this show in the production of it. You guys help me find shit to cover. All you got to do is tag me if you're on Twitter particularly. at Tower Gang Jose. Just tag me in some stuff. You're like, whoa, this would be great for the show. Whether that's some sort of icebreaker content like we're going into now, whether that's something a little bit more highbrow or something a little more lowbrow that might be fun for an outro or something. Just tag me in it, and you help contribute to the show. So that way I'm not wasting my life away on Twitter. Not that I really do. I'm trying to reduce my time, though. It'd be great. Just have a bunch of people. I come on Twitter. A bunch of people have tagged me and stuff. I don't even have to look through the timeline. Boom! I have all my stuff curated for me. It's great. So keep it up, guys. Frequent of the show, Channel Ocho. No Mud, No Lotus on Twitter. So appreciate you contributing as well. But I've had a few people tag me in this one. It looks like some weird stuff's going on over at the Tucker IQ or the Tucker HQ over at their merch store. We have a few. By the way, real quick, I meant to say this at the beginning. Let me know if there's any audio or how the internet's coming, because I did something a little bit different today. I did a different setup, trying to dispel my internet feds to finally slay them once and for all. So I think I figured out a fix. So let me know if everything's coming there. We should, if I did it right, we should have super smooth internet right now. So, but anyway, sorry, not to get off into housekeeping sort of talk, but let me know. But here we go. Let's go through a couple of these. We see a FAGA trucker hat. I don't know what FAGA is supposed to be. I don't know if it's a joke of faggot or something. Because that doesn't really. I'm trying to make a sense of what the acronym could be, what the F could be. Because it'd be Make America Great Again's MAGA. So what's the F as opposed to make? I mean, I don't know. I guess we're also assuming the AGA is the same. They have it coming in red, black, pink. There's also low IQ, so it seems like they're doing some sort of, which I think, I don't really watch Tucker regularly, but I've seen some things, on the periphery of, I think he's kind of gotten to the retard maxing aspect. I think it's particularly like religiously speaking, which I know it's been fun. It's kind of fun to see a little bit from the outside looking in, him delve into that. So maybe that's what he's getting at. The embracing of I think from a religious perspective, it's more the idea of kind of embracing things on faith as opposed to having to intellectualize everything. So it's the idea of, as a religious person, which I'm not, frankly, essentially be like, hey, we're retard maxing, and it kind of a little bit of a joke on how retards are always the happiest among us. And there's something wholesome to be extracted from that, some sort of life lesson. And I don't. Maybe there's something to how you approach your faith with it. So I think maybe that's what he's getting at, the low IQ. Not sure. He's going to not today, CIA. Okay, whatever. Neocons are gay. Yeah, Tucker's getting pretty saucy, and that comes in a few different colors. So good on Tucker, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It's just kind of funny seeing him crank it up a notch, trying to get a little bit naughty. All right, let's check in on our political parties. What are they doing these days? We got the Republican Party. Once again, this is another one of these ones, and multiple of you guys have tagged me in today. So I don't know. I guess we could write this off as a Freudian slip, perhaps. I don't know, but it does seem to be spitting truth here. So you guys check this out. Tell me what you think. Let's see it.
You honor sacrifice not just with words, but with action. And that's where a clear contrast is. Our Republican priority will always be to be putting government ahead of Americans. You honor sacrifice.
So the government ahead of Americans. So Republican priority will always be to put government ahead of Americans. This is a GOP vice chair, so I know, Freudian slip perhaps, but either way, that does seem to be the case. Well, let's check in the Democrats, see if they're doing much better. Here's Michigan House Democrat candidate Shelby Campbell. Here she is twerking. This is a thing now. Oh, I got to give you the full experience. Sorry, the audio cut out because StreamYard be doing that kind of shit. Give me one moment. You need the full experience of the sound. Here you go. From Libs of TikTok, here is Shelby Campbell twerking in her, kind of, I don't know, let's be real, sort of basic ratchet, somewhat looking apartment. Twerking in some sort of, I don't know, what do you call this? I guess it's a dress. But it's kind of like a around the house type thing, but casual wear. But here you go. And that's on her account. You can even see in the bottom right-hand corner on TikTok. It says Shelby for Congress. Although she's not the first one to do this, to be fair. Here is, shows right here in the comments, everyone referring to Senator, Rhode Island Senator Tiara Mack, who is out here twerking. To which I gotta say, like, obviously this is ludicrous, but I think we should embrace this more. We should encourage this behavior. I mean, I guess encourage the sense of like, I guess not encourage. It's more that you like, as normal people recede away from this this parasitical entity we call the government. Just like generic white women gassed up by mid-white women gassed up by all their assorted fans out there that they take on, because it just seems it's only natural, this OnlyFans whatever weird dystopian dynamic we're creating, that like that is kind of naturally what government would become if we just the normal people kind of backed away. And these are the ones who kind of, I think, do have these incentives to power in some way. We're creating these weird parasocial dynamics where all these, these women start thinking they have profound ideas because all these men say all these things to her, and you go, oh, we need to change things. This idea of this egalitarian idea. Everyone's vote matters, and like everybody should vote, and your opinion matters. No, not everyone's opinion does matter. Some people's opinions matter more than others, but I like it. I think this is what we should allow the government to sort of slowly decay into until this just a bunch of mids twerking off in the distance. That I think is a great symbol of the end of an empire. But moving on, let's check in on the church. I think this is a little bit on it. We looked a little degeneracy, so let's church it up a little bit here. Fan of the show here, Leo for Liberty, shared on Twitter, says, here's the Pope 6-7. So, if you're looking for something to talk to your kids about or talk about with your kids, like I do sometimes, here you go. Here's a fun little talking point. You're like, hey, to your 12-year-old kid, hey, did you know the Pope 6-7? And then you could bring up this clip. Yeah, here you go, the Pope 6-7. And you'll have something to talk to your kid about for a moment, so that'd be cool. But let's check this out. Here is the Pope 6-7ing.
6-7!
Okay, well, that is adorable. That could possibly be some sort of symbol for the end times, given the current situation we are in this world. But let's check in the chat, say some good mornings. That's all I got for you guys. Just a couple goofy ones to ease our way in, and then we'll get into the foreign policy here in a moment. But let's roll to the chat, say some good mornings. Good morning, Retardo. Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Camarneal. Good morning, Sirhan Solo. Good morning, Qbert. Nice try. I see what you tried to do there. I'm not saying the no word. Get my channel taken away. Good morning, OG Matzo Balls. Good morning, Mr. Woke Reich. Tom says, I'm more against women in Congress than I am against Congress women twerking. I'm like, I guess what I was going to say is, like, I can understand being against women in Congress, and I can understand being against women twerking. But I think when you put those things together, if you're like, well, Congress will just be women twerking, you're like, okay, well, I think we have a deal here. Good morning, Hotep Beavis. Glorious day to my fellow turds. Tom says, I didn't even know the 6-7 thing was a verb. I guess you can use it as 6-7ing. I mean, that would be what 6-7ing is. So Hotep says, I'm pretty sure the Pope 6-7's kids in his time off. Well, perhaps. I don't know. I've never heard anything bad. He's actually seemed to be pretty good. I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're all blood-soaked weird pedos at that level. But I don't know. He's been pretty cool on war issues, for sure. One person who has been an utter disappointment on war issues has been the POTUS, Trump himself. He had some statements recently to be had about the casualties sustained in war, essentially with the prospects of war with Iran kicking back off. So let's hear what he had to say.
You lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers in these various wars. In two wars, Venezuela, where we lost nobody, and here we lost 13 people. Now, 13 people is 13 too much, but we lost 13 people. In other wars, you lost hundreds of thousands of people. So people don't like it when you say, oh, do you know you've lost 13? We've lost in two major wars. We took over Venezuela. We essentially took over Iran. and we've lost so far 13 people. Somebody else would have lost 100,000 people. Okay, but I get a kick when I look at somebody on television. He's lost 13 people. I lost 13 people. They lost 13 people leaving an airport. You lost hundreds of thousands.
Well, not the glowing language one would want for respect for life, but hey, unfortunately, it could get way worse. We still seem to be in a bit of a stalemate position, but not for lack of trying, it doesn't seem. The Marines apparently have boarded an Iranian-flagged tanker in the Gulf of Oman. CENTCOM said on Wednesday that its forces boarded an Iranian-flagged oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman as the U.S. continues to enforce a blockade on Iranian ports. CENTCOM said that Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit boarded the Celestial Sea because it was suspected of attempting to violate the U.S. blockade by transiting toward an Iranian port. The command said the Marines released the vessel after searching and directing the ship's crew to alter course. CENTCOM added that U.S. forces continued to fully enforce the blockade and claimed that it has redirected 91 commercial ships to ensure compliance. U.S. forces have attacked and disabled at least 4 commercial ships in the region in recent weeks, and CENTCOM said in early May that it destroyed 6 Iranian IRGC attack boats, though Iranian media said the U.S. actually destroyed 2 small cargo vessels traveling between Oman and Iran, and the attack killed 5 civilians. The U.S. has also seized several vessels that were carrying Iranian oil in the Indian Ocean. President Trump has previously said the U.S. was acting like pirates in its enforcement of the blockade, affirming Iran's characterization of the U.S. actions. We took over the cargo, took over the oil. It's a very profitable business. Who would have thought we were doing that? We're like pirates. We're like pirates. We're sort of like pirates, but we're not playing games, he said on May 2nd. So another ship. I remember, too, there was a story a little while ago where Iran was reinforcing once again that, like, hey, like, we're not taking any more guff here. So I think maybe because it's flagged and maybe it's not specifically an Iranian vessel, like, I think it's just, like, flagged to someone that was flying an Iranian flag, or maybe it's a less official one or whatever. I don't know. At some point, you'd think Iran, unfortunately, will respond. I hope they don't, but let's check in a little bit more on the saber rattling occurring from Trump. Seems to be daily, kind of, brandishing the old weapon. Oh, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. I mean, I don't want him to do it, but like, it gets a little tired. But he's saying he's gonna give it one more shot to make a deal. I mean, although I think we're like 21 more shots, ago. But whatever. I digress. Trump said that he was giving Iran one more opportunity to submit a workable proposal to end the war. By the way, this is coming from Kyle Anzalone over at the Institute. And a little casual reminder, when I do my foreign policy coverage, it's pretty much almost exclusively, generally speaking, yoinked from over at antiwar.com. It's a great place that compiles all the latest. They write their own pieces as well, but they pull from other different publications, and gives you kind of a well-rounded idea of what's going on in the wild world, particularly, especially from the context of someone who lives in the United States. So with it being more focused on like what American interests and what they're doing, that sort of thing. So I may not always give the credit to the people, but just so you guys know, the real ones know that though. So, but just a little casual reminder. But we'd have to open the Strait of Hormuz. That would open immediately, the president told reporters on Wednesday. So we're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. Negotiations between the U.S. and Iran appear to have stalled. The two sides have exchanged proposals, with Pakistan acting as a mediator, but remain far apart on key issues. Trump went on to express skepticism that Tehran would send Washington an acceptable proposal. I just wonder whether or not they have the good of the people in mind, because some of the things they're doing to me means they don't have the good of the people, Trump says. There's a lot of anger now in Iran because people are living so badly. We'll see what happens. The remark follows a Truth Social post on Monday where Trump stated he was convinced to call off the strikes by Gulf Arab countries. I've been asked by Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, and the President of the UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Man, those names. Trump wrote on Truth Social Monday to hold off on our planned military attack of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which was scheduled for tomorrow. Over the past month, Trump has threatened to attack Iran several times if Tehran does not make significant concessions, including giving up control over the Strait of Hormuz and severe restrictions on its nuclear program. However, when Tehran refused Trump's demands, the president did not follow through on his threats. And one more note too. I forgot to mention with me yanking these from Anti-War. Dave DeCamp also puts out his own daily show, just covering the day and whatever, the latest day, 5 days a week, the latest on what's going on in the anti-war news. And so his is more like 30-minute show, and it's basically just the foreign policy roundup portion of this show. But he does a little. He summates the individual articles a little bit more, but then he also covers all of them. Whereas I don't bring literally everything that was over anti-war every day. I just pick through what I feel like is more relevant for me and my audience. But all right, moving on. But yeah, you can go check that. It's like Anti-War Radio or Anti-War something on YouTube. I watch it every day. I highly recommend it. Moving on. Done plugging Anti-War. Not that I can never do it enough though. So here's Middle East Eye. It says exclusive: Trump postponed U.S. attack on Iran after Hajj warning. So I don't know if they're saying maybe like another postponement. God, my tongue. I don't know if they mean like another postponement or they're referring to the one that we talked about just now in the previous article and also the other day, where Trump was saying the Gulf countries have asked me to hold off on this attack that I said I was supposedly going to do, and so I'm going to. So a lot of people questioned how legit that is. So I don't know. There apparently in this piece it said Trump was postponed it after a Hajj warning, which is I guess some holiday that we're about to learn about some more. So I don't know if this is a new one or if it's referring to that, but we're about to find out. This is written by Shafiq Mandhai. It says U.S. President Donald Trump postponed a planned attack on Iran this week after being warned by Gulf allies and his own officials not to resume the war during the Hajj pilgrimage. Middle East Eye can reveal. Okay, so it was the most recent one. So there was some doubt, myself included. I threw some X to doubt on that. The Gulf Coast allies told me to do it, which was believable. As I said, it was believable enough that perhaps they did want that to be the case. But it's also like, given the current like gamemanship and the degree of like lying and dishonesty we've seen in this back and forth, particularly from Trump and his administration, it's kind of like you really can't take anything he says seriously. So it kind of almost looked like we're going to push it back another day, and another couple days, and I need some fucking excuse. According to two senior Gulf officials, Trump was told that attacking Iran during the Hajj pilgrimage would lead to a crisis within Gulf states, as it would leave hundreds of thousands of pilgrims stranded. Sources also said that Trump was told that attacking during the holy period, which leads up to the Islamic festival of Eid al-Adha, would further damage Washington's standing in the Muslim world. A senior U.S. official was familiar with discussions taking place within the Trump administration, confirmed that the conversations had taken place. They said the U.S. president had been warned by his own officials that resuming the U.S.-Israeli war would cause serious reputational damage for Trump. The U.S. previously attacked Iran during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, but doing so during the Hajj period would cause enormous logistical challenges for Saudi Arabia, which hosts around 1 million foreign pilgrims each year. Those challenges also extend to Gulf air travel hubs such as Qatar and the UAE, and countries in South and East Asia, from where many pilgrims embark on their journey. This year's Hajj is set to begin on 24 May and will span 6 days. Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims are ready in Saudi Arabia in the lead up to the event. Well, assuming this is the case, then I guess it's asked them to delay any sort of attacks for something that's happening 3 days from now. So this is like yesterday or the day before, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly. So just to give you an idea of the timetable. So because considering if this is true, then this gives us a little bit of an inkling and of an idea of like if they were to resume attacks, when it might be. Like if it really was, he was able to get them to delay it for this thing that wasn't even for days anyways, assuming that the hostilities were likely going to spill over for multiple days into this. So that gives us all the way till 30 May, I believe. If we're assuming, I feel like the idea of not getting into it multiple days ahead of time kind of implicates that they probably won't get into it until like after this is done. So I'm getting a 30 May. That would be next Saturday. So not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. So we almost like a week and a half ish. So I know just to give an idea when things could possibly pick back up. If that is true, if this is the case, I mean it's believable enough. Why not? But yeah, let's move on. But so it's looking like there might be some truth to these claims of that there actually was something to the reason why Trump delayed it, as opposed to just he needed to come up with some rhetoric to defend his bluster from before. So, which he has done multiple times as well, where he clearly has just been lying and made up some weird other reason to, essentially wash away the crazy threat he had made, some prior time. So, but anyways, let's pop on over to Cuba. Looking like that might be kicking off here soon, unfortunately. They're already sending their stooges out to the news places to try to gin up the war fever. Here is not James Comey, I'm retarded. Comer. This is Comer, who I think he's on the Oversight Committee, Republican side of the aisle, but here he is, one of Trump's boys for sure. But he's like kind of sometimes, from my understanding, a little bit kind of okay sometimes, if that makes sense. But watch this. Let's see this back and forth. I haven't watched it yet. We'll watch it together for the first time. This looked like an interesting little tidbit. So let's watch it.
This Cuba thing, Secretary of State Marco Rubio released a message to the people of Cuba today in Spanish. Then Raul Castro gets indicted. I get it. The Ayatollah is gone. Nicolas Maduro is in jail. But now Cuba, I think people struggle with how this is America first when gas is $4.55 a gallon right now.
It is, and you're absolutely right. But at the end of the day, Cuba has always been a national security threat. And as you said earlier, we've been negotiating with Cuba since before I was born. I'm 53 years old. So the negotiations have gone nowhere. Cuba's leader is at the end of his lifespan. The Cuban people clearly, unlike maybe the Iranian people, the Cuban people clearly want a regime change in Cuba. It's just, minutes away from Miami and Florida in the United States. So it's a strategic problem for the United States.
But do you really think they're a threat, Mr. Chairman? Do you really think that Cuba's a threat?
Well, if some country went in and loaded Cuba with the same drones that Iran had when we first started bombing Iran, then yes, I think it could be a threat. I don't think that's there. I know John Radcliffe has been on the ground. The CIA is on the ground as we speak, talking to the Cuban officials. I really don't think, Rob, it'll get to any type of military action, but the president's threatening that. He's increased sanctions on Cuba. I don't know how many more sanctions the Cubans can take, especially after what happened in Venezuela. The Cuban-American population clearly supports what the president's doing in Cuba. Thus far, it hasn't cost any tax dollars other than to send a few diplomats to Cuba. But at the end of the day, I think that we've got to be on guard because of the new types of warfare that's out there with these new drones and this new technology.
I get it,
We're
but
seeing
Cuba,
it play out in Iran.
I understand that. Axios had a report this week that the U.S. is concerned, I'm sure you saw this, about a possible Cuba drone strike on Florida. And I'll be honest, Mr. Chairman, I know that you've got the security clearance to know more about this, but to me, this just sounds like we're trying to make the case to attack Cuba. I don't buy it. It sounds like a false flag operation. Would you support military action in Cuba if it came to that? And I guess more importantly, do you buy this report in Axios?
Well, I know that I've been one of the biggest critics of our intelligence community over the past 10 years.
Right.
They're usually wrong. They usually do everything they can to get us to the point of warfare because that's what they like to do, apparently. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody right now supports an invasion of Cuba or anything else. We're hoping that this can turn diplomatically. Again, with the age of Castro and with the economic conditions the worst they've ever been in Cuba, I think now's a prime time for a strong president to go in and try to change that country and hopefully get it done. He's made some great progress in other countries like Venezuela in his administration dating back to the first term. He has credibility on the international stage. So I'm hoping for the best, but I don't want to see boots on the ground. I don't want to see missiles fired. I don't want to see any of that, but hopefully we can do it diplomatically.
All right, let me just...
All right, that's something. That sure is something. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not buying this. The idea that they're a threat to us, and I mean, this guy, I'm kind of astounded. I mean, Newsmax was kind of went that route, kind of alluding to, not even alluding, straying. It sounds like a false flag, and as I mentioned the other day, here we are over at Cuba, and it's like, I mean, what is the example people always bring up, as proven, to bring the receipts on governments, trying to attack their own people. People always bring up Northwoods, and that was the incentive then was the Cubans. The whole idea was they were going to get Cubans, essentially going to frame Cubans for different random acts of violence around the country, bombings, shootings, et cetera, and here we are in this drone war. It's all too easy just to get some robots to do some shit and blame it on somebody else in this day and age. So, I mean, I don't know, just something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I did think it was funny there at the end. He was talking about nobody's talking about an invasion, and then literally within the next sentence, he's talking about hopefully Trump can go in there and fix things. And you're like, whoa, wait, what do you mean go in there and fix it? Or what does that mean? I mean, I guess he would probably then say well, there are other tools than invasion, and then so we just kind of get hedging on to what degree are you wanting to essentially topple some empire. So whatever. And as you say, nobody's wanting to invade Cuba. I mean, hell, we've literally had Trump multiple times allude to having, him possibly having the privilege of taking Cuba. So it's I don't know what we're supposed to interpret that to mean. We also have an aircraft carrier strike group arriving in the Caribbean during all of these threats. But according to Comer, nobody wants an invasion. I mean, okay. So Southcom said on Wednesday, the U.S. aircraft carrier, the Nimitz, and its accompanying warships have arrived in the Caribbean amid U.S. threats of a potential attack on Cuba. Welcome to the Caribbean, Nimitz carrier strike group, Southcom said on X, adding the Nimitz is joined by the destroyer USS Gridley and the oiler USNS Patuxent. The command said the warships are the epitome of readiness and presence, unmatched reach and lethality and strategic range. So definitely something to be concerned about, ramping up their presence in the region. And another thing to be concerned about, we were talking about the drones. That's one of the many different pretexts they're trying to build up. Another is that they've indicted one of the Cuba's former presidents for we'll get into this in a moment, but it's something that glows all on its own and kind of ironic, especially if you look at it from the angle I do, kind of the Gladio type angle, the Northwoods angle, which I did mean to mention a moment ago when we were talking about Northwoods. It is funny, hardly anyone ever really talks about Gladio or any of the actual perpetrated things by governments out there in the world, as opposed to Northwoods, which is something they oh, here's plans they supposedly scrapped. They totally scrapped these, sure. Whereas things like Gladio is oh, well, here they fucking did it. So, but anyways, the Justice Department on Wednesday unsealed an indictment for 94-year-old Raul Castro, Cuba's former president and brother of longtime leader Fidel Castro, a move clearly aimed at providing a pretext for the U.S. to attack the island nation. Keep in mind, this is basically what they did with Venezuela. They did the same exact game plan. They targeted the president. Now, this isn't the president, it's a former president, but I mean, it's the same basic idea. The indictment is related to the 96 shoot-down of two planes belonging to the Brothers to the Rescue, a Cuban exile group, which, as we were just talking about Northwoods, Cuban exile groups, they are famously homies with the CIA. An incident that occurred when Castro served as Cuba's defense minister. The BTTR was founded by Jose Basuto, who has previously said he was trained by the CIA and admitted, CIA admitted to taking part in a 1962 operation that involved him firing a 20-millimeter cannon on a Cuban hotel. In the lead up to the shoot-down, which killed 4 Cuban Americans, Clinton administration officials expressed concern that there would be an incident if the BTTR continued flights that intruded into Cuba's airspace, which were happening frequently, according to documents published by the U.S. National Security Archive on Tuesday. So it sounds to me like a CIA front was flying in the wrong territory multiple times over and over again, was warned to stop doing it, yet they did. Moving on. Starting a year before the shoot-down, the Cuban government filed multiple protests on repeated violations of its airspace by BTTR aircraft overflying populated zones and dropping thousands of leaflets and other materials calling for popular insurrection against the government, the National Security Archive said in a release on the document. So once again, get this. This pretext they're using is a CIA front was flying over Cuban airspace and was not supposed to do that. Big no. We're told multiple times, multiple complaints filed by the Cuban government. Their own government warned them to stop doing it, and they fucking died. One of the documents that was published was an email written by the FAA official at the time that cited further taunting of the Cuban government by the brothers to the rescue, overflights, and State Department concern about a worst-case scenario in which one of these days the Cubans will shoot down one of those planes and the FAA better have all its ducks in a row. Oh, yeah, and I meant to even mention, and to add to all of that, not only are these Cuban exiles flying over the airspace, have been asked to stop doing it multiple times, they're literally dropping propaganda over the airspace for them to revolt, which, like, sure, we can agree that they should revolt, but it's like, come on. Then the National Security Archive said that the planes that were shot down took off from Miami. A White House official contacted the FAA in Florida and instructed them to block the flights, but they refused and only delivered a warning against flying into Cuba's airspace. U.S. Attorney Todd Blanche in a statement on the indictment that for the first time in nearly 70 years, senior leadership of the Cuban regime has been charged in the U.S. for alleged acts of violence resulting in the deaths of American citizens. The incident follows the same playbook that the U.S. pursued in its attack on Venezuela to abduct Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. And it comes to as the U.S. is enforcing a ramped-up oil embargo on Cuba and has increased military surveillance near the country. Trump has also openly threatened war against the country, saying he may have the honor of taking Cuba. Let's check in what Senator Kennedy is saying, another one of these stooges being paraded out to try to sell this. So this, I couldn't help but bring this one up for you. It's all too juicy. Apparently his reasoning for why he doesn't like the Cuban regime is because they're incompetent, they oppress people, and they take all their money and give it to the military and police and screw over all the good people. So just saying, do I even need to say it? Let's watch this.
And number two, Fidel Castro, the original Castro, was pretty smart. He was evil, but he was smart. But these asshats since then have just been incompetent. They're like three-wheel shopping carts. I mean, they're just incompetent. All they know how to do is oppress people. They take all their money and they give it to the military and the police and themselves. And to hell with the good people of Cuba. And that's not a model for success. And they're gone. And they just don't know it yet, whether we do it through an invasion or not. I'd rather do it the easy way, but that's kind of up to the communists who are running things.
What's the easy way?
And number two.
All right, so I don't really need to say it. You guys are smart enough to get what I'm getting at. Yeah, the communist Cuban government, they are bad. I agree, Kennedy. The commies are bad because they take all the money and they give it to the government, and it makes things really hard for normal people. I totally agree, Senator Kennedy. All right, moving on. Let's check in on our greatest ally. We got more dead over in Lebanon, 12 killed, flattening homes with Israeli jets. So, I mean, I bet you those jets were throwing rock. I bet you those people living in those houses were throwing rocks to those jets or something, huh? Israeli strikes continued against southern Lebanon on Wednesday, adding at least another 12 people killed and several others wounded. The attacks continue to escalate in spite of the extension of the ceasefire. Another 45 days over the last weekend. So, once again, a reminder, this isn't a ceasefire. The largest number of deaths came in the village of Duir, where Israeli jets were leveling homes, killing at least 5 people within and wounding 2 others. An additional 2 people were killed in airstrikes near the hospital in Tibnin, while another person was reported slain in the Tyre district in an attack on their motorcycle. At least 22 people have been killed in the past 24 hours, including strikes late on Tuesday and overnight, including 3 women and 3 children. The Lebanese Health Ministry reports 3,094 people have been killed and nearly 10,000 others wounded since the beginning of the Israeli invasion in March. The IDF has not commented on the attacks overnight or so far into today. And indeed, while they had previously been claiming enormous numbers of Hezbollah members among the slain, the number of women, children, and other obvious civilians among the slain simply doesn't support the idea of the overwhelming majority of the killed being Hezbollah operatives. 2 Israeli soldiers were also wounded in a drone strike in southern Lebanon. One was described as seriously wounded, and the other as moderately so. A 3rd soldier was also claimed to be lightly injured in the same event. Oh, boo-hoo. I guess a little bit of a mixed news here. Over in Gaza, there hasn't been a death in the past 24 hours, which is astounding. I mean, that is, if you watch The Daily Show here, it's literally basically every day I bring up a Gaza story of onesies, twosies. Oh, here's 10. Oh, here's 12. Oh, 20 this time. Oh, 30. Oh, 1. Here's 2. Somehow, none. I mean, none documented at least. So, but I guess kind of a look over a big picture here. But there have been more than 880 Palestinians since so-called ceasefire deal was signed. So 880 Palestinians killed. Israeli attacks in Gaza have killed more than 880 Palestinians since the so-called ceasefire deal was supposed to go in effect in October, according to the Gaza's health ministry. The health ministry said in its daily update, which it releases about midday Gaza time, that it recorded the killing of at least one Palestinian injury over the previous 24-hour period. Ministry said that since the ceasefire was signed, 881 Palestinians have been killed and 2,621 have been wounded, a total of more than 3,500 Palestinian casualties. Number of victims are still under the rubble and in the streets as ambulance and civil defense crews have been unable to reach them so far. Israeli attacks continued on Wednesday, with the Palestinian news agency Wafa reporting that at least 7 Palestinians, including 3 children, were wounded by Israeli shelling across the strip overnight. So, I mean, it wasn't for lack of trying. They didn't get any kills. So they wounded a bunch of people that somehow didn't get any kills in that period. Israel's also violated the ceasefire deal by taking more territory in Gaza, as the IDF now occupies 60% of the strip, up from the 53% it controlled at the start of the so-called truce, and continuing aid restrictions. While the U.S. and Israel are accusing Hamas of violating the deal by not disarming, the actual agreement Hamas and Israel signed only established a ceasefire and a mechanism for the release of Israeli hostages and the recovery of Israeli bodies buried under the rubble. Issues like Hamas's disarmament and a full Israeli withdrawal were meant to be dealt with in follow-up negotiations, which have been stalled. And our final story of the day over in foreign policy, still talking Israel here. Apparently there was an Israeli soldier that posted an image of a Palestinian for sale, and that guy is now missing. It's over the Middle East Eye. Here's the picture, and I think over here in the middle you see the weird little demon signature or demon characters here or whatever. That's a Hebrew, I believe, and it says like for sale or something. And here's the guy over here on the side. You can see him with his hands probably looking like they're tied behind his back, wearing some sort of thing over his thing to cover his eyes, a blindfold. But this is Harel Amshika, whose photograph showing a man believed to be Mohammed Sharab. So on 18 November last year, an Israeli soldier named Harel Amshika posted a 9-image carousel on his Instagram, accompanied by some reflections on his time spent in Gaza. His years spent fighting had passed quickly, but left a big mark. He wrote, "Being a warrior in such a time is a privilege. Gratitude for sleepless nights and a very long war. To friends who became family, to experiences that I never thought I would have, for better or worse." Amshika went on to thank his unit, the Shaked Battalion, which falls under the Gavati Brigade of the Israeli military. He paid tribute to the soldiers he knew who'd been killed in Gaza, with his bio singling out Ido Zano, a combat medic who also served in the Shaked Battalion. One of the photos in the carousel showed a Palestinian man in an all-in-one white hazmat suit with B4 scrawled just beneath his right shoulder in black market pen. The man's feet are bare. His hands and ankles are tied. He's sitting against a cement block. He's blindfolded with what appears to be green cloth or green tape. Above him, sitting on top of an adjacent block, the bottom half of another man. His hands and feet, also bound with plastic zip ties, can be seen. Over this image posted to Instagram as a caption, it reads, "For sale." The Instagram post has since been deleted. The whole account, in fact, has been deleted, though Amshika has started a new one with a very similar username and a bio that reads, "Just for fun." But archived copies of the post and screen grabs of the photograph have circulated on social media. According to a report from Global Legal Action Network, Zahra Sharab, a Palestinian woman in Gaza, saw the photograph and recognized the man in it. It was, she said, her son Mohammed Sharab. His hands, his hair, his feet, they were the same. So you can go check and read more of this, but just another example of just insane. This is the sort of shit he's like, you're recounting on his time favorably in the military. But like, just my great times back in war, and just sharing all his photos. And just this is one of them in it. Just some Palestinian with a for sale sign on it, which I don't know if I'm not necessarily saying the guy sold him to slavery. I actually would guess he probably thought it was some sort of like joke of some sort, like, haha, for sale. And frankly probably murdered him after, to be completely honest. So I don't know, maybe let him go or something, but guy's unfortunately probably dead. But who knows? Maybe he's some sort of weird slave to some Jew somewhere. So, but with that, let's roll into the chat, say some more good mornings, and then we'll get into Trump corruption. And then hopefully we don't have to cut our Epstein coverage. I think we should be able to get both in. So let's roll through, say some more good mornings. Q-Bert said, did Trump just call them major wars? I thought it wasn't war. Yeah, good catch. Yeah, I meant to mention that earlier when I was setting this up. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. He mentions war here. Yeah, that's the whole big thing. This isn't even a war. So, good morning, Oxtail, saying Arsenal Premier League champions. Come on, ya Gunners. Okay, I guess Arsenal's playing or something. I'm a big soccer player. I'm not a big soccer watcher. So, good morning, Bug Fights. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I think I said good morning to you, OJ, but saying the Shelby video reminds me the 19th should be repealed. Here's facts only, saying you're back. I am back. I was banned. I had a strike on YouTube, so I was out for a week. But I was still elsewhere, so all the other platforms, X, Twitter, or Twitter is X, I'm retarded, X, Rumble, so I was still going live on Rumble and X, and then I would just drop it to the podcatchers after the fact. It was only YouTube we didn't have, so, but yes, I am back on YouTube, for sure, but I had like 7 or so that I'm never going to put those on YouTube, so if you want them, you got to go to other platforms, so, anyways, good morning, Chris, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Boomer Sooner. Good morning, good morning. Bug Fights, why do I get turned on when women are mean to me? Yeah, I mean, I feel ya. Tilla, good morning, starting an N Tower. Q-Bert continuing it, leaving him hanging. Feel free to join him, guys, if you're over there at Rumble. See if you can pull off a successful one. One last thing, and we'll get into our corruption. Here's Q-Bert, says, I hope this place collapses soon before I'm too old to fucking fight. America's already dead. I want to burn this bitch. The rest of the way down, survival of the fittest. So, Jesus Christ, Q-Bert, you are all right. You are ready to go, huh? I don't think I could read the last part. I hope it doesn't. I hope things work over well. I mean, I think the old system will collapse, but that does not necessarily necessitate that any of the individuals' lives within it need to collapse as well. So we can try to set ourselves up for success in the meantime and make fun of the elites as we do it. But let's get into Trump corruption. I mean, he's definitely riding. He's riding that fucking. He's riding that wave of collapse. He is milking it for all it's worth on the way down. This is very much democracy, the god that failed. Democracy incentivize, essentially milking the treasury to the. It's the most you can while you're in. If you only got 4 or 8 years, then it means you only got 4 or 8 years to extract all the value you can out of this sucker. And it looks like Trump is very much doing that here in his last term. So let's go through a few things. We're going to dig through all this stuff. Here's Derek Thompson giving a little bit of an overview as we get into it. It says, within one 24-hour period, Trump got out of a $100 million IRS fine. He secured immunity from all future tax investigations for his family and friends. He created a $1.8 billion slush fund for law-breaking supporters. Was reported for likely insider trading worth nearly $1 billion. There's all the obvious things to say about this are true. It's bad. Nobody even tries to defend it. The closest thing to a defense you get is somebody about how, but Democrats suck, and woke was also bad, which is not a defense, but rather a kind of moral blank check made out to the administration to give them the right to do anything. But what I'm most curious about is whether this sort of lurid corruption creates a counter-movement that successfully returns government to rule of law, or whether it's establishing a norm of executive imperialism that every future administration will use to achieve its ends, which can always be justified by the moral blank check of the other side is worse, so let us do whatever we want, which is tale as old as time when you're dealing with the government. But the Democrats suck, but the Republicans suck. You both fucking suck. Let's look through a couple of these excerpts he pulled of articles. We have just kind of look at the headlines, give you an idea. We got DOJ hands Trump, his family, and businesses immunity from tax investigations, subtitle being the provision is a supplement to a remarkable deal that also create a $1.8 billion fund that's likely to benefit President Trump's allies. Go prisons to pardons to payouts. January 6th rioters are elated at Trump's $1.8 billion fund. So another one. There's another article here. It says flurry of suspicious oil trades worth $800 million triggers regulatory probe, which I feel like these stories come out like multiple times a week now. Some crazy insider trading that's incredibly obvious but technically plausibly deniable over and over and over again. So once again, looking like we're being taken for a ride. Subtitle here says the Commodity Futures Trading Commission is parsing records of trade made before a social media post by President Trump. And like even more so, he's like literally been boosting these companies via Twitter, like talking them up, and then like have just made the trades right before. So here's another one. It says with Trump's deal, a possible $100 million IRS penalty melts away. So let's dig through some of these. Let's get through them. But we read this yesterday when we did some of our Palantir / Peter Thiel coverage, his sinister network going on there. But we talked a little bit about this to kind of tie these two together between Thiel, the Epstein network, and then kind of bring it back full circle to Trump. A little bit of a little hint here. We're gonna circle it right back around to Epstein again by the end of this episode, likely, assuming we don't cut the last segment for time. But a little recap. We did the segment the other day, but here's a post from America First Post. It says President Donald Trump bought shares of Palantir, the artificial intelligence software company and defense contractor, weeks before publicly praising the stock by name and ticker symbol on Truth Social. According to the filings, Trump bought between $247,000 and $630,000 in Palantir shares during the first quarter of the year. In March alone, he reportedly made at least 7 separate Palantir purchases worth up to $530,000 combined. The records also show thousands of transactions across the first quarter, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars, with each trade disclosed only as a broad dollar value range by the U.S. Office of Government Ethics. So, but with that, let's see what let's see JD Vance having to answer for this. It's always been fun to see this constant, like, every time Trump does something absolutely insane, then JD Vance inevitably gets questioned about it, and once again has to tie that yoke of the Trump administration around his throat even more, thus further ensuring there's almost no chance for him to get elected at least not in 2028. Like 2028 is, I would be astounded if they even tried to run this guy by 2028. But here's Vance answering to this. This is quite a doozy. Let's watch it together.
You guys got to behave yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The president's financial disclosures were released recently, and they showed a lot of stock trades in companies that he has talked up at events, official events at the White House, on his True Social account, sometimes even putting the stock ticker symbols in his posts and encouraging people to buy their stock. Americans, according to recent polling, are increasingly describing the president as corrupt. And trading stocks...
This is a hell of a question.
Thank you, sir. Trading individual stocks is something that you said that public officials should not be able to do when you ran for Senate all those years ago. And yet the president, who arguably has access to more non-public information than your average senator, is not only buying and selling individual stocks either through his trust.
Okay. What's the question?
The question is, the question, sir, is how can you and your administration argue to Americans that you're cleaning up corruption, you're preventing fraud, you're fighting the sorts of things that harm people and people's financial situations, when the president seems to be talking up stocks that he owns, selling them and enriching himself?
Okay, so here, let me answer your question here. That was a doozy. Before I answer your question, I want to just observe there are different ways to ask a question. Okay, you can just ask a question, try to get your answer, or you could do like a speech where you say, Mr. Vice President, you're a terrible human being, and so is the president, so is the entire cabinet, and then I'm like, what's your question? And then your question is, how dare you? Come on, man. have a little bit of objectivity in the way that you ask these questions, because there were a lot of things in that speech masquerading as a question that didn't actually get asked, okay? Number one, the president doesn't sit at the Oval Office on his computer on his like Robinhood account buying and selling stocks. That's absurd. He has independent wealth advisors who manage his money. He is a wealthy person. He has had success in business. He's not making these stock trades himself. And your question imputes that. It doesn't say it exactly, but a reasonable person listening to that question would assume the president is sitting around and doing that. He's not. Second of all, you're right. I'm a big fan of banning members of Congress from trading stocks. So is the President of the United States. All of us believe that nobody should be taking proprietary information gained from public service and buying and selling stocks. We want to ban that process. And I think the way to lead by example is banning that process, banning that approach, and making it illegal, which is exactly what the president has proposed to.
But in the meantime, while it is sort of legal, we're going to do it anyways. So let's see. I wonder if someone's got to have the tweet in the. No, I assume somebody would have the tweet in there. I was looking for the one tweet where Trump amps up Palantir like right after he bought it. So it's like weirdly obvious. So I assumed it would probably be one of the first ones, but whatever. I was just going to rub JD's face in a little bit. But hey, at least JD did a lot better job. I mean, it's kind of insane. I mean, I probably should have had ready to go for just now. I should have probably had the other clip where recently, I guess, I'm sure pretty much everybody here, I know I played it on this show, is the clip of Trump saying he doesn't think about the people's financial situations, and the context technically being like in regards to the Iran war and the question of having nukes, yada, 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 whatever. And then JD got asked about it later, and then he had to basically be like, oh, Trump didn't say that he doesn't care about, and then like he then doubled down on it, and then he had to get asked about it again. If you want, go check that on your own time. Maybe I'll find it for tomorrow or something. It is quite the trip. It's just fun seeing him have to take these crazy foot and mouth moments from Trump, at least politically not expedient moments, maybe not even foot and mouth, because it may just be where Trump doesn't give a fuck. He is politically essentially done. J.D. Vance is an up-and-comer who has prospects for the future, yet Trump just keeps fucking this guy in the ass over and over again by saying politically unexpedient things and then passing it off to J.D. to be like, hey, make this not as fucking bad. And then J.D. has to church up some one-sentence fucking atrocity into a 4-paragraph sweep job. So I don't envy his position, but he's doing a lot better than people like Jim Cramer. Check this one out. This one's wild. For those who don't know, this guy he's the money guy. He's like the meme of like, oh, Jim Cramer's got this on that, so we should all bet against him. He's always essentially running cover for the establishment financial system. But here is him and his co-host, and even his co-host seem to be in on the joke here, throwing Cramer under the bus. Cramer's a bit of a Trump stooge. Let's watch this.
Yeah. City today takes it to 130.
Yeah, but the president, U.S. government got in. He could sell it and
yes,
get that
and
number.
according to the filings, the president's been trading some intel in the quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, trade.
Got nothing to say about it?
Well, yeah.
All right, don't worry. We're not having technical difficulties here, everybody, but we got to go.
Jim, we'll see you tonight. Mad Money, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. S&P 7433. Don't go away.
All right. I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying that Jim Cramer may have like stroked out or something. I mean, perhaps he did, but like, I don't know. I really think that it was just that Cramer, maybe in his head, in the moment, like deer in headlights, is like the only solve to this is to act like you're having a stroke. Because, I mean, it seems like he just didn't want to talk shit on Trump's name on the TV, and so they had to go to break. He's but I know. Let's watch this one more time. It's just this is the move. This is from now on, guys. Whenever you're like, you don't have a proper answer, but you don't want to incriminate yourself, and so you got to run cover somehow. This is the move. This right here.
Trade.
Got nothing to say about it?
Well,
Don't worry, we're not having technical difficulties here, everybody, but we gotta go.
Watch, Jim Cramer's gonna be dead tomorrow. I'll be like, I've just done this bit fucking with him. He just strokes out. I haven't seen any news. I didn't really fervently follow up, but I haven't seen anything about Kramer getting having like a seizure or not seizure, but like a stroke or anything like that. But moving on, let's check in on more of the sweep job coming in from the powers that be. Another one with this tire line of like, well, Trump's not even doing his stocks. He has some guy who does it for him, as if that like precludes him from calling his guy and going, hey, bet on this. Like, either way, it's his money. So, I mean, this idea of like, well, somebody else is managing it, it doesn't really matter unless you can somehow prove he has no input whatsoever into that money. But let's check out, this is Tuberville. Let's check him out. This is from Midas Touch reporting on it.
So, Coach, what do you make I gotta ask, Donald Trump, 3,700 stock trades in the first quarter of this year. What do you make of that?
Donald Trump, 3,700 stock trades.
Yeah, in the first quarter of this year, it's like every 9 minutes and 45 seconds a trade. I know it's not him personally doing that, but
exactly. And I do the same thing. I never look at my stocks. He does the same thing. You give it to somebody who knows what they're doing. That's how this country runs. People have jobs. Give them your money. If you want to invest in the country and corporations, that's what we all do. I get sick and tired of hearing Republicans and Democrats say, we need to stop all this trading. If you're inside trading, you need to stop. But I guarantee you, President Trump's not inside trading. I'm not inside trading. And it's ridiculous even people bring that up. Most people that bring it up don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Got it. Coach, who's going to win the World Cup?
Nobody's inside training. Nobody's inside training. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, we have Donald Trump Jr. has gone from $200 million to $3.5 billion at his venture firm 1789 Capital in 1 year. So, I mean, I just doing business, we're good businessmen. Just great business. That's what it is. I think great business is seems to go hand in hand with proximity to power, doesn't it? It's weird how things work like that. The firm bought stakes in Databricks, Ramp, Deal, Grok, Anduril, SpaceX, XAI, and Reflection AI. I guess it's currently targeting $10 billion and positioning itself as the new Carlyle Group. So hey, just nobody's inside training. Nobody's doing such a thing. But what they are doing is they're making what looks like to be a slush fund over in Trump world. A $1.766 billion slush fund. Very clever. 1770. Wait, what? No, 1.766. I think it was 1.776. So if not, they missed a golden opportunity. I think this is a typo here. I swear I've seen 1.776 elsewhere, but I'm seeing here 1.766. It's got to be the 77. But either way, let's read the press release on this from the government, just because I figured we'd take a moment. We talked about this the other day with Ken a little bit. I mean, it's hard to tell sometimes the parse between like libtard like freakouts and like are they just. I mean, we dealt with the first Trump administration. I guess in retrospect, I got to give the liberals some credit. Like, you were definitely, in a certain, like, ultimate sense, sort of, kind of correct. But, like, their attacks were so typically off-kilter from reality and just insane shit that you're just like, I don't, like, Trump's a fucking racist, or Trump's a thisist, or Trump's like, is he? Or are you just being, like, when you guys are defining racism as the most, like, ridiculous thing ever, like trying to think, I can't even think of an example. Like, I don't know. Just think of the most innocuous thing, and if you could even somehow imply race into it, it's if you have an opinion on it, it must be racist. Like that is where the discourse on something like what that was at the time. Same thing with sexism and like feminism. All the isms, they were on turbo drive in the first Trump administration. So to be fair, a lot of us out there in the world tuned out the liberals because they were being quite histrionic. And so I think we were right to some degree in tuning them out. So anyways, I'm more just commenting on the fact that they may have been a little bit on, but like it is like this does kind of seem to be in that same general. It's always hard to tell if they're just being ridiculous. Are they just being hyperbolic? Is there some sort of truth here? So let's dig through the Office of Public Affairs release on this. get a little bit better idea. I mean, maybe this is somehow on the up and up, but they're making it sound pretty untoward here. But to be fair, like I said, it's mostly liberals running with this, so who knows? Maybe it's just them just being turbo libs out there. But let's check into it. Here's a part of the settlement agreement. It says Justice Department announces anti-weaponization fund. This is part of the settlement agreement in President Donald J. Trump versus Internal Revenue Service. So, this is part of a settlement between Trump and the IRS because they've been having some sort of back and forth court thing, which, and that feels weird to begin with, that you could have the sitting president of the United States essentially involved in a lawsuit with one of its effectively subsidiaries. Now, I'm assuming the IRS probably doesn't fall in the executive branch. Maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to look it up real quick. What branch does IRS fall under? Sorry, I know this is great content. Let me see. IRS Department of the Treasury, which I believe that falls under executive, right? I mean, so actually, I think it technically does fall under the purview of the president to some degree. I'm assuming they probably have weird rules. It doesn't mean they can you can just do whatever the fuck he wants there. But whatever. That aside, it does feel a little bit weird that that's a thing that was happening. That something feels odd about that. At the very least, it could lead to some weird conflict of interest or something like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like the IRS, so. But anyways, the DOJ announced today, this is yesterday, or not yesterday, I think it was the day before, that as part of a settlement agreement in Trump versus IRS, the Attorney General established the Anti-Weaponization Fund. So the Attorney General established that, to provide a systematic process to hear and redress claims of others who suffered weaponization in lawfare. So I guess more of this untoward thing. I guess my question with this weird dynamic of you being in some sort of because I'm assuming there was a settlement. So there's a settlement here. And this is why who runs what does kind of get weird and confusing and complicates things. So we have the Attorney General who works for the fucking president establishing the anti-weaponization fund. So I'm under what I don't know. If it's kind of if you have a settlement between you and another entity, and you're the one who owns the other entity, it's kind of you may have a little bit. It sounds like you're kind of cooking the books here. You may be able to set things up how you want. So, leading to what we're seeing here. I don't know. I mean, maybe we're missing some specifics of the rules, but let's keep going. The plaintiffs in the case, Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and the Trump Organization, filed suit against the Treasury and IRS in Southern District of Florida federal court following the leak of their tax returns. Per the settlement, plaintiffs will receive a formal apology, but no monetary payment or damages of any kind. Okay. So per the settlement, the Donald Trump and all them, they're not receiving any money, any payment, anything like that. But I guess it says they have agreed in exchange for the creation of this fund. Now who is the one who's agreed to this though? Because that's what's weird. Because it's is this Trump's legal counsel and the Attorney General coming together to make a decision? Because then that's just Trump making the decision. So somehow they essentially came to IRS yielded to settle, and it sounds like they're kind of setting the terms. So they've agreed in exchange for the creation of this fund to drop the pending lawsuit with prejudice and also withdraw 2 administrative claims, including for damages resulting from the unlawful raid of Mar-a-Lago and the Russian Kaluga hoax. The machinery of government should never be weaponized against any American, and it is this department's intention to make right the wrongs that were previously done while ensuring this never happens again, said Todd Blanche. As part of the settlement, we are setting up a lawful process for victims of lawfare and weaponization to be heard and seek redress. The use of government power to target individuals or entities for improper and unlawful political, personal, and ideological reasons should not be tolerated by any administration, said Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General Trent McCotter. The fund will have the power to issue formal apologies and monetary relief owed to claimants. Submission of a claim is voluntary. There are no partisan requirements to file a claim. Any money left when the fund ceases operations will revert to the federal government. So anything that doesn't get claimed when the fund ceases will revert to the federal government. So so that just incentivizes using it all up. The fund will receive $1.776 billion. I was right. That was a typo earlier. And will come from the Judgment Fund, which is a perpetual appropriation allowing DOJ to settle and pay cases. On a quarterly basis, the fund shall send a report to the Attorney General outlining who has received relief and what form of relief was awarded. Okay. Allowing DOJ to settle and pay cases. Okay. This is weird. As the Attorney General's direction, the fund can be audited. The fund must take steps to protect private information and avoid fraud. The fund shall cease processing claims no later than December 1st, 2028. There is legal precedent for such a fund, most notably the Keeps Eagle case, where the Obama administration created a $760 million fund to redress various claims alleging racism against the federal government over a period of decades. I didn't know that. That's interesting they bring that up, but I would say that sounds really fucking stupid too. So get the fuck out of here with that. In Keeps Eagle, hundreds of millions of dollars remaining in the fund were distributed to nonprofits and NGOs that never made claims, whereas any money remaining in the anti-weaponization fund will revert to the federal government. The Obama DOJ settled by putting $680 million from the Judgment Fund into a bank account for a single claims administrator dole out. In Keeps Eagle, the remaining money, which ended up being over $300 million, was distributed to the entities that had not even submitted claims. The fund will consist of 5 members appointed by the Attorney General. 1 member will be chosen in consultation with congressional leadership. The president can remove any member, but a replacement must be chosen the same way as the replaced member was selected. All right, let's go back. Let's go pick up. I want to see something. One more thing about this. The fund will have the power to issue formal apologies and monetary relief owed to claimants. Now, that owed thing is what I'm curious what that means by owed. Who determines what is owed? Is that literally? I mean, is that as simple as, hey, you spent this much court fees and yada, 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 and we'll pay you back? Because this does, I think many people are concerned, myself included, this could easily be a vector for corruption. It sounds, I mean, and we're looking here, I mean, it sounds like a 5-member board who's making these decisions. So all appointed by the Attorney General who works for Trump. That Trump can remove any of the members. And one of these members is, I guess, supposed to be, is chosen in consultation with congressional leadership. So, I mean, you have 5 people, one of which is chosen with Congress. So it's like, what does that even mean? That still means ultimately Trump is basically, so it's Trump's board. This is completely a Trump's board. It kind of, I mean, it's funny that this feels like, funny enough, weaponization of government in its own way. And literally their argument is like, well, Obama did it. Like, yeah, this is exactly the point. The weaponization of government. One side does it, and then the other side does it and goes, well, we got to do it because the other guys did it, so they weaponized it, so now we got to do it. It's just even more ridiculous when it's like, but the reasoning is because of weaponization. Like, bitch, you are literally doing it right now. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I definitely agree that a lot of these people who got caught up in a lot of this, I definitely think there are legitimate claims of weaponization of the government, especially during the Biden administration, and there are legitimate grievances to be had. But this seems very concerning, and Trump has done nothing to to convince us that he is worthy of such trust. All right, let's get into one more little video on corruption, and we'll get into our Epstein stuff, our Epstein coverage for today. So we got one more. I haven't watched this one. I do like to remind you guys, this is an info dump style show, so not all of this has been vetted ahead of time. So this could be some turbo lib nonsense, but I wanted to watch this video with you guys. From More Perfect Union, apparently it looks like there's some sort of property scheme seemingly going on with the Trump administration and ICE in regards to their warehouses. So it seems like there's some sort of scam going on here to make money. So one of many. I mean, we could do episode upon episode upon episode of all the different scams. Hell, we did I think multiple segments on all the God, what is it called? Why can't I think of what it's called? What is it called when a Trump absolves someone's, or a president absolves someone's criminal record? Why can't I think of that? I'm so retarded. Whatever. We did multiple on that. Why can't I think of that? It's really bugging me. I'm going to remember it in like 3 minutes of the word, but whatever. Let's go ahead and play this. Let's check this out, and we'll get over the Epstein stuff.
When DHS bought up warehouses to turn into ICE detention centers, I noticed something weird. Many of these warehouses had been sitting on the market for years, and now DHS was buying them at a massive markup. Like this warehouse in Socorro, Texas, that sold for 1,000% above its recent valuation. Kristi Noem once championed this program, but now that she's out, the DHS Inspector General just launched an investigation into these warehouses. To understand what was happening, I reached out to Michael Riston, a former military analyst.
Pardon. Sorry. Back to your video. It's a pardon.
Who has been tracking ICE warehouses on his site, Project Saltbox.
ICE doesn't necessarily want to be using warehouses. The plan came from folks very close to the White House who were sitting on properties that were causing them losses every year, and the decision was to buy them at taxpayer expense.
So let's take a look at 3 ICE warehouse sales that have used your money to make people in Trump's orbit even richer. First up, Goldman Sachs. It was the majority owner of this warehouse in Roxbury, New Jersey, that ICE purchased for nearly $130 million. That's 137% over a previous valuation in 2025. For years, Goldman Sachs executives have had close ties to Trump, like Steven Mnuchin, who served as Trump's Treasury Secretary in his first term. Next up, Blue Owl. You may not know this private capital company, but honestly, you should. 35 members of Trump's administration reported investments in Blue Owl funds. Even Trump himself has over $5 million invested in Blue Owl, which has also been a major funder of data centers across the country. So maybe it's not a huge surprise that Blue Owl was paid about double the market valuation of a warehouse it owned in Tremont, Pennsylvania. And then there's Deutsche Bank. Through a series of subsidiaries.
By the way, that's a $60 million profit that she was just kind of talking about. That $100% valuation over market value. That's a double the price of a $60 million piece of property. So it's additional $60 million. So it sounds like maybe not as bad until you put it in that frame. You're like, oh, they doubled it. Like it's not. I mean, it's still obviously some sort of possibly fraud. But you're like, all right, maybe it's not that. It's $60 million. Let's keep going.
Deutsche Bank owned a warehouse in Salt Lake City that ICE is now planning to turn into a facility with about 10,000 beds. With their DHS markup, Deutsche Bank essentially pocketed nearly 50 million more taxpayer dollars than if they had sold at market value. Deutsche Bank has loaned Trump about $2.5 billion over the past 2 decades and had 40 different accounts with none other than Jeffrey Epstein. Even though these warehouses haven't been converted yet, Wall Street institutions have already cashed in. And the reality is that other Trump-connected contractors are already profiting off of ICE detention facilities with inhumane conditions.
What we're seeing happen now, you know, I never in a million years envisioned seeing this happen on U.S. soil. Never once.
The nearly $1 billion spent on warehouse purchases is just a fraction of the $38 billion that DHS has to build out a mass detention system that could hold nearly 100,000 people. So it looks like there's a lot more of your taxpayer money to go around.
I think one of these days we'll probably have to come back to some of the construction stuff and maybe do a segment on that because I know there's been a bunch of that, but between the pardons, between the construction chicanery, between this, I mean, there's a ton of it to go around. I mean, we've covered corruption many a times. But with that, let's roll into the chat. We'll get into our Epstein coverage here in a minute. Let's check in on you guys, you beautiful people. Say some more good mornings, and then we'll get on to the next thing. Mr. Woke Reich says, my niece is joining TPUSA at her college, so I had to tell her about the Michael Aquino, Paul E. Vallely connection. Good, interesting connection for sure. There's a someone who was working with the Satanists. I don't know if Vallely, was he considered a Satanist or was... I know he co-wrote Michael Aquino's Mind War. He was the co-author. I don't think he was a Satanist, but he was basically... he was essentially his Aquino's military handler, for those who like get into the minutia of that dynamic there. So kind of weird seeing him on the board of TPUSA for sure. Good morning, JMS. Said morning, Deads. Good morning. Good morning. Martin Max says, JD, is it making Trump seem any better? Yeah, he's struggling. It's hard making gold out of hay. It is rough. So I do not, I am not jealous for him. Tom says, I want to feel bad for Vance, but he can just say things. He could easily talk shit about Trump. that would be the move for the GOP in the long run if they weren't retarded. Yeah, no, they're all going down the ship, it seems. Tom says they're going to pull the Kramer next time my girlfriend is mad. Good morning, GitHub. Good morning. And a casual reminder from Qbert that JD Vance is Peter Thiel's sopping wet meat sock. He sure is. So let's get into the latest in the Epstein world. And I thought a good way to kind of lead into this conversation, show you guys an interaction I had just last night. I thought it was funny that you guys may enjoy, and it kind of kind of sets up the rest of the segment. We have a couple stories, an Elon Musk story. We have a story on the Alexander brothers, who are very much Epstein elite adjacent. They are Epstein elite. They're Epstein adjacent. They're in the files, although they were already dealing with some legal stuff before the files even really dropped. So what a crazy coincidence. They also showed up in the files. Who would have ever guessed? But a good way to start this is showing an interaction I had with Jeremy Kauffman that I just thought it was kind of fun. And while we aren't really, like, the purpose of this segment today isn't to really get into, like, Epstein receipts, like, specifics and, like, proving out all this stuff. It incidentally is. We're just kind of casually covering a couple pieces and just kind of look at how these people carry themselves, look how they behave, look at it's kind of an inside look at, like, the culture of this group of people. But we still have people out there that are kind of questioning even the existence of this group of people. Is it fair to call them this group of people? But let's get into that. I'll show you what kind of set off this whole interaction. I saw Jeremy. Actually, I don't even think I saw. This is what I saw that, like, started. But I saw this come across my screen. So the Epstein files that showed it was basically all overblown nonsense. Then I looked at what was going on. There was a tweet here from Jeremy. The one I just read to you was a reply to his, within his own thread. But the original tweet was pre-2025 Massey was principle and fact-based. He'd cite solid studies showing the CDC was lying or use math to show debt was unsustainable. Post-2025 Massey was increasingly conspiratorial and fact-free. I think this played a larger role in him losing than anything else. So, which it's in a certain way, I do think that actually, I guess in a certain twisted way, I think Jeremy is correct there. I do think this played a larger role in him losing than anything else. I mean, not necessarily the specific, what a frame job here, but the specific idea that he was conspiratorial and fact-free. No, you're hitting on the right vein there in the idea of what was the conspiratorial and the supposedly conspiratorial and fact-free thing that he was talking about. Well, Liberty, New Hampshire here, nails what I'm getting at. He says, yeah, him getting the Epstein files released was definitely what did him in. I'm surprised they didn't kill him, to be honest. And to which that Jeremy replied, the Epstein files that showed it was basically all overblown nonsense, ? And then me, I'm not going to sit here and argue and debate with this guy. So I just, for fun, I quote tweeted him with a black Hank Hill, with him smoking a cigarette, kind of like, nigga, what? Just kind of like a what the fuck? And I had ratioing him, which whatever. Now I will say the thing I quote tweeted was a reply within his thread. It wasn't a deep reply. Like, it wasn't like he was only like two, it was literally like the first generation of replies, if you will, like the sense that, like, someone replied and he replied to that. So, like, we're like two down. It's not that far down. It's not that crazy. When I also came upon it, I think it already almost had like 200 likes or anything. So it's which this will be meaningful in a second, I guess, just because I do think for those who understand, trying to quantify what this means. But I don't know, wasn't anything that big of a deal. He currently has like 313 likes on it. I just did the Hank Hill nigga what, didn't even caption it, nothing. Just kind of like, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? I got almost 700 likes on it now. So it's an over 2x ratio. Now of a something within a reply, so less impressive. No, it was super low effort though. So it's like, dude, I literally just did a meme real quick, moved on with my day. You cost me less than a minute of my time. I'm just clowning on you. Like, what the fuck, dude? That's crazy. He didn't reply. It says, you could have provided evidence I was wrong. Maybe you can't because it doesn't exist. To which I replied, I did the beret John Travolta doing the the Liberty lockdown pose in the little finger pointy thing, and I said coulda, didn't wanna, rather enjoy my day and the ratio. Just kind of like, because, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and argue with Jeremy Kaufman. I'm not going to waste my whole fucking day going back. Here's EFTA 016735765 that shows that he clearly had this connection to this. And it's like, especially when it's like, I don't think anyone really out there is claiming any one specific file is like, here's the smoking gun. This is the thing. But it's like, you accumulate all these things together. It paints a picture. Like, maybe some things would be like, maybe would actually hold up in court of law. Some things or wouldn't. There's also like something doesn't have to meet the threshold of the court of law for you to go, I think something fucky's going on here. But anyways, he goes, quote, tweeting a deep reply isn't really ratio, but have a nice day with your imagination. Now, I just thought it was funny. He's being a little salty because it's like, I mean, for what it was, it's, I don't know. Not that it's like anything crazy to be like, whoa, holy shit, I ratioed him, but it wasn't that deep. Also, it's like, it was zero effort. It's somebody who has like over 15 times the followers that I do. So yeah, then he goes, I go lesser ratio, still fun, but nothing magnificent. Gotta enjoy the little things, lest I could find myself making an ass out of myself in grocery store parking lots. By the way, you'd be welcome to come on the show to debate with journalists like Ryan Grimm or any number of other people who've done great work on the Epstein story about how it's basically all overblown nonsense. Would be happy to set something like that up. Otherwise, miss me with your gay Epstein Twitter hasbara. Which, no, I do want to mention, I don't have like some sort of into Ryan Grimm. He was the first name that came to mind as some sort of Epstein person that's done coverage. I think it's Hussein Murtaza. I might have fucked up his name. Is another guy who's done a lot of good work over at Breaking Points. I'm retarded. So there's plenty of other people, maybe even like a Ryan Dawson or somebody like that. But, whatever. I could totally set that up. So I just essentially kind of was clowning on him and kind of pointing out like, hey, like, fine, I'd be willing to do this on the show. Now, my tact when it comes to online things, like, yeah, I'm not doing the online back and forth. He did reply to this saying, I'm happy to engage in discussions and stuff, but live debates over factual issues are an awful format because people can cite questionable claims with no ability to live research or fact check. The proper form of debate in this area is written over time, which I would somewhat agree with him in an overall larger sense, to give, so you guys know where I'm coming from in this sort of discourse. In a certain sense, if you could, like, let's say me and Jeremy had like a Substack battle, like back and forth, like written word articles. Sure, but I'm not fucking doing that. And then two, if you're saying that the proper one is over Twitter, no, it's not. Like, you're out of your mind. Now there's whole sorts of social dynamics that come into play. I've also seen Jeremy and how he operates online. I mean, not even really giving him shit. I do a lot of the same stuff sometimes, but I'm not really pretending like I'm on Twitter to have some sort of, back and forth in the debates, like some sort of whatever the fuck. I've seen the way Jeremy moves, and like there's certain ways you can move on Twitter where you can shift things to your advantage. You can create this social perception. This thing's different. You can also not reply to certain things, reply to other things. I actually think it's better to do like a podcast. So whatever. But I left it at that just so anyone out there, if you do want to try to neg him to make something like that happen, sure. But I'm just more bringing this up to just kind of point out that he said, hey, you're providing evidence, whatever. Well, here we are in the format in which I do that sort of thing. I'm not going to waste my whole day away on Twitter. Once again, the floor is open for Jeremy to come on here to talk to somebody else. Now, I'll be honest, I don't have any interest in having him on as just like a guest, just me and him. I'm not really trying to do this back and forth of me arguing with him. Because for one, that sounds like a fucking Jewish nightmare, to be honest, to try to sit here and argue with him, going back and forth and him play this like dipshit gambit as if like none of this rises to the realm of like something to be of concern, despite the fact bringing multiple things over and over again and him having to just play stupid. I can already see how this game plays. I'd also be, I'm on back foot, being the one running the show, trying to manage, what's going on. It's better if you have a moderator, so I'd be happy to moderate it. And have somebody else who's like the expert and have this back and forth. And you can even bring your own live fact checker or whatever who can check these things in real time. Much like when we had Steve Baker and Ken Silva and Steve Friend on the other day. We brought Steve as like his moderator. This person could be also someone who operates as a fact checker. So just throwing that out there, I would be happy to have Jeremy Kaufman on the show with some sort of other subject matter expert on the topic and him try to defend the statement that the Epstein files are basically all an overblown nonsense. So just throwing it out there. And we're about to go into a whole segment that I think in and of itself, despite the fact I formed this before even deciding to include this in my commentary for today, also goes to further demonstrate how this is clearly not just overblown nonsense. There is looking to be a whole lot of fire to this smoke. So yeah, I don't know. Characterizing this as overblown nonsense, good luck with that. Keep running that. But, to kind of start off, though, let's check in on this. Here is alias Vaughn saying this is an extremely incriminating file where Epstein discusses the fact Trump raped a minor at Epstein's apartment, and Epstein raped her too, and there are sworn testimonies on the matter. So I guess just throwing out to you guys, I'm still debating whether I'm even going to reply, because I'm just like, this is gay, I don't really care. But if I were going to, I'd probably use this one as I still will admit this is by no means a smoking gun. There are arguments and obfuscation people can use to try to downplay this one that I'm about to read to you. But boy, oh boy, does it not fucking paint a picture. And let me tell you why. All right, let's get into this one. I've read this on the show with you guys before. But here is Jeffrey Epstein. From him to Kathy Rumler. This is sent on March 30th, 2016. Now, who is Kathy Rumler? Well, that was one of Obama's chief legal counsels. That was one of his top legal dogs. And also has been shown to be revealed throughout these Epstein files. So there's so much context behind even just this one email that I think in multiple different ways kind of disproves what Jeremy is saying, that this is overblown nonsense. So even just the very fact that there's this ongoing correspondence between Kathy Rumler and the sort of things that they talk about between Kathy Rumler and Jeffrey Epstein, and where she said that in of itself is enough to be concerned. But I think she even ended up being an executor on his will, or might have been I think she was one of the iterations of his will. She was an executor or something, Kathy Rumler, also one of Obama's chief legal aides. Astounding. One of the most connected people to Trump, not to Trump, but to Epstein when you dig through the Epstein files. And that's Kathy Rumler, one of Obama's top people. But even furthermore, let's go into what the fuck they're talking about here. And it is in 2016 too, which I think is worth mentioning. So this is kind of before they really hit the public zeitgeist. So I think it may dispel some things. I think it was kind of just sort of in the early stages of hitting the zeitgeist, if I recall correctly. But here's this email. It's a back and forth. So starting from the bottom, Trump is likely to be asked questions soon about me. As Epstein says, in an ideal world, what would you think he should say? And then I think this is Rumler saying, I knew Epstein professionally and always had positive dealings with him. I don't know anything about his personal legal issues other than what I have read in public reports, and therefore don't have any comment. And then here's Jeffrey. He goes, responding to this, he goes, supposedly a girl said that Donald had sex with her at my house when she was underage. She said she was a witness in 1993. And then it says Pottinger story, which now Pottinger, that's another little tidbit that adds more to this. Pottinger is a character that came up frequently in this. He's an Iran-Contra player, for those who aren't aware. Moving on, speaking of which, I can't remember if it was Pottinger or if it was another one of the Iran-Contra players, but one of these guys also took up residence with Epstein over at his place for a good while. So once again, overblown nonsense. But it says 2 weeks ago, McGiver said that Pottinger wanted to meet him. I emailed back, do not meet. You are not involved. Yesterday, McGiver sent me. Pottinger worked his way into my office to tell me that. Very annoyed, I called and got his telling me the above. Now, I guess you could downplay this, that he's recounting some rumor or something like that. It doesn't necessarily mean this is true. Now, it does complicate things furthermore, which I don't know if it's specifically this girl that they're talking about, but there are other examples of where I forget the name of it. I should probably look this up later. That way I can spell this off the head better. But I know there's one case where the person that there's a person who accused Trump and Epstein of some sort of impropriety. I believe the Trump thing got dropped, but then Epstein also paid her off. So that kind of was wait, what? I mean, I guess you could just say Epstein's paying off everybody because he's why would I bother arguing whether I did it or not? So it doesn't necessarily mean guilt. But just saying, kind of feeding into the idea that there's something to that. All right, moving on past that. Let's check in on Orrin and Alan Alexander and their older brother Tal, who were convicted in March of multiple federal sex crimes, including sex trafficking. And we're going to get a little bit into their, kind of how they were raised, how they grew up, what they were like as youths. So yeah, and you'd never guess their ethnicity. You'd never guess it. And I did mention they were in the Epstein files on a previous occasion. This is EFTA 01660679. Now these are the guys who were recently convicted of federal sex crimes, including trafficking. Now I'm by no means a master of that case. We covered some aspects of it, but it is at least noteworthy that these guys also showed up in the Epstein files. So find that particularly interesting. Like I said, EFTA 01660679. So it says here's the subject of one of these NTOC names. Is back in 2025. So attachments, Alexander Brothers. Says, are you able to send full NTOC report? We need to interview regarding the Alexander Brother allegations. Says the content, yada, yada, yada. And then it's essentially a forward of, a lot of people have seen this one. This is these complaints. And a lot of people brought these up to kind of be like, whoa, look at these crazy complaints. Now, these were just complaints, so that's the level that they come to. So for those looking to downplay, it is just on the complaint level. Anybody, I believe, could have made this. So just to be completely on the up, but at the same time, like, these are also people then later are, showing up. They're showing up in the Epstein files, connected to Epstein, and connected to a lot of these other players. And they end up getting busted later after the fact. So these weren't even like people who were like in the public consciousness as this stuff was going on, yet here they are still in it. But let's look at this one complaint. It says, redacted reported an unidentified female friend was forced to perform oral sex on President Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexis she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when this occurred, and the friend allegedly bit President Trump while performing oral sex. The friend was allegedly hit in the face after she laughed about biting President Trump. The friend said she was also abused by Epstein. So in the response here, it says, spoke with caller, identified, redacted his friend. Lead was sent to Washington office to conduct interview. I'm trying to look for I thought maybe Alexander was mentioned that one. My bad. I'm going to skip some of these because there's a bunch of different complaints. I don't think they're all necessarily connected to the Alexander brothers. I think this was like an assortment of complaints, and the reason it's being forwarded here is because this is somebody investigating the Alexander brother case in the FBI. That is essentially their concerns are the little tidbits related to the Alexander brothers in this. But let me see. I'm trying to find the Alexander one. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. At age 16, here's one with them. This is age 16 while modeling. Caller attended 8 parties at Epstein's New York residence. On one occasion, caller reported she was sexually assaulted by Epstein. On another occasion, 2 twin brothers, Alan and Orrin, lured caller and her friend upstairs, but they escaped back downstairs. Caller stated Orrin raped her best friend, and a third brother, Tal, raped a 14-year-old girl named Redacted. Caller named other individuals involved in big orgy parties with her, other young girls, and older Victoria's Secret models, including Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. Online complainant reported she was a victim and witness to a sex trafficking ring at the Trump golf course in Rancho Palos Verdes, California, between 95 to 96. Complainant reported Ghislaine Maxwell as a madam and broker for sex parties, clients of whom included Epstein, Robin Leach, and Donald Trump. Complainant reported participating in orgies and that some girls went missing, rumored to have been murdered and buried at the facility. Complainant reported being threatened by Trump's then head of security that if she ever talked of what went on there or who she saw, he would end up as fertilizer in the back 9 holes like the other cunts. Then it shows, there's a little section where it shows the actions of the investigators. So his complainant was spoken to and deemed not credible. Additional research showed 3 separate redacted. So they did say not credible. As I said, these are just complaints. I'm not saying these are, I just find it interesting that these guys did get convicted. There's all sorts of impropriety they've definitely done, and they also did come up multiple times in the Epstein files. Not all. Now these are mostly just complaints. So, but it is. I find it interesting that these guys are even mentioned in these complaints, though, because they weren't really a big deal at the time, if that makes sense. So the idea that people were, they showed up and then just so happened, it almost feels like after the fact. Then you're like, oh shit, these guys also did all these things. And they were the Epstein files. It's not like one led to the other, if that makes sense. So let me see if there's anything more I can see about the Alexanders. I mean, these are all different claims. So like I said, these are all... let me see. See if anything about the. Sorry, I know it's great content, the dead air, but I'm just looking through these others real quick to make sure there's none I'm missing before we move on of all these different complaints. I wonder if I can control F in this thing. Let me see. Actually, I think I can. Alexander, let's do that. Actually, boom. One of two. Okay, I guess it's just those two. So, all right, let's move on. Sorry, don't mean to. Oh, well, let me see. Actually, there's something to this one. I don't think I read this one. Did I read this one? No, actually, I didn't read this one. I'm retarded. No, I did read this one. All right, moving on. Let's get back into this piece over here over the Miami Herald. Well, actually, their thread. There is a piece that we could go through, but we're just going to go through their thread here. It says 6 women told the Herald they were raped or assaulted by one or more of the brothers between 2002 and 2004. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about we're digging into their past right now. This is a story from the Miami Herald on the Alexander brothers' past. So there are obviously these are. We also have the other federal sex crimes they got convicted for recently. So these are in addition. So in the Miami Herald dug up 6 women that said they were raped or assaulted between 2002 and 2004 while the 3 brothers were attending the senior high. Dr. Michael M. Kropp, this is near Aventura. March 2003 police report in which a 14-year-old girl reported a group of boys raped her is partially redacted, but shows the name of 2 boys, recently convicted sex offenders, twin brothers Orrin and Alan Alexander. Despite the report, which notes Kropp's principal was informed, no disciplinary action appears to have been taken by law enforcement or school authorities. Police did not interview the brothers, and the state attorney's office declined to press charges. The brothers, who are imprisoned at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn awaiting sentencing, were convicted in March of multiple federal sex crimes related to drugging and raping young women over nearly 2 decades. The brothers and their parents declined requests to be interviewed for this article through their representatives. George Nunez, who was principal of Kropp at the time, decided to talk to a reporter at a recent school board committee meeting. The Alexander brothers' lawyers referred reporters' questions to Judah Engelmeyer, a public relations consultant who has previously represented Hollywood firm producer Harvey Weinstein and rapper Sean Diddy Combs as they face widespread accusations of sexual abuse. Here's what he said. So the allegations you reference are decades old, unproven, and in many cases were never raised at the time, investigated conclusion, or resulted in any charges. So none of the 5 other women who spoke to the Herald reported what happened to law enforcement at the time, but their stories echo a pattern described in the 2003 police report in the sex trafficking trial in Manhattan that ended with guilty verdicts on all 10 counts. It just seems like the adults completely fucking, probably is what I mean here, abdicated their responsibilities, said one of the women who told the Herald that when she was in 8th grade, a group of boys, including Tal, dragged her into a bedroom, she said. She believes she was drugged. Now, you can read the full piece here. I'm going to share this. Now, a little reminder for those, may not have noticed, I do typically try to retweet any stuff like this that I cover in the show. That way, if you want, you can come back over to my page. You can dig a little bit further, find what I'm talking about. That's kind of, I guess you could say, the show notes of sorts. Just go over to Twitter, go over to Tower Gang Jose, and you will find typically my feed is mostly just morning dump related stuff. Every now and then we have a little fun, get into a little clowning. But let's check in on another Epstein elite. I want to see, let's check in on the weird dynamic of Elon Musk and his harem of broads. Here's Ashley St. Clair, I guess is getting into a little bit of a tell-all with her weird fucking boo, or used to be boo, her former beau, Elon Musk. So but she gets into when her relationship got weird. Let's give a little bit of a summation of this. Here's Evan Loves Worf. So this video is actually fucking wild. Ashley says Elon has another baby with a Japanese woman, is against immigration from a eugenicist standpoint, tried to impregnate Tiffany Fong behind her back, told her to get a C-section so the baby would have a larger brain, worked with Trump for weeks before declaring support for Trump because of the assassination attempt. So let's go through this piece over at page 6 to get a little bit idea more of what they're talking about here. Let's see what Ashley St. Clair is going on about these days, which, I mean, if you know me, you know the show. we're not necessarily Ashley St. Clair respecters over here at the Morning Dump. I mean, she's fine, I guess, but so it doesn't mean she's lying, though. I do think she's a bit of a grifter in her own way. So just saying, just throwing that out there ahead of time. She has all her own incentives to be salty and to be spreading lies. But I think Elon's probably a bit of a litigious man, so I think she's probably not going too nuts with it. I think she's just saying the stuff she can. I don't know if she's necessarily lying, but you also need to factor that in whenever you're dealing with a woman scorned. But let's go through this piece. It says Ashley St. Clair details in relationship with Elon Musk got weird. It says Ashley St. Clair divulged that her relationship with Elon Musk took an awkward turn after the Tesla CEO found out she was pregnant with her son. Get ready with me while I talk about when things started going south with Elon, the former conservative influencer said in a TikTok video shared last week, which you guys can go check that on your own. I'm not going to find that and retweet it or anything like that. So you guys can go check that out. I mean, this is what the piece we're reading is essentially covering her doing this whole tell-all type thing as she does her makeup. One of those style YouTube videos, like hang out with me while I do my makeup type thing. St. Clair noted that she and Musk began talking about having a child together during a getaway to St. Bart's, and that prior to her pregnancy, they had been emotionally intimate. However, once she was expecting their child, things changed between them. As soon as I'm pregnant, this is when things started getting weird, she told her followers. There's just things that are not adding up or that are different from what he previously said to me. St. Clair said no one was going to believe her, but insisted Musk was so much more normal before she got pregnant. She says, it was a very normal conversation. She continued, his demeanor was normal. I know I'm going to get roasted for this, but in private, he was funny. But then it just got so fucking weird, man. Elsewhere in the upload, she also shared that she was already a single mom when she met the billionaire, having welcomed a son with a previous partner. The chances of me getting married in the white picket fence and the white dress, I believe that was out the window for me because I was already stained as a single mom, St. Clair, 27, said. But I wanted nothing more than to be a mom. I wanted more kids. St. Clair called the experience single parenting and wondering if you're going to be able to pay the bills for your kids a difficult thing. So when Elon was like, you should have kids, my only limited resources is time, of course, it is appealing to do what I always wanted to, be a mom and not have to worry about the shit going on in this economy. I don't think that's a crazy position to take, she added. It's more like my kids are always going to be taken care of. A rep for Musk did not immediately respond to Page 6's request for comment. St. Clair revealed in February 2025 that she secretly welcomed their child 5 months earlier, later revealing his name to be Romulus. Okay. Pretty epic name, not gonna lie. A little kind of dorky in a certain way, though, but kind of cool. Musk previously welcomed son Nevada Alexander with ex-wife Justine Wilson in 2002, but the infant died at just 10 weeks old. They also share twins Griffin and Vivian, as well as triplets Sexton, Kai, and Damien. In May 2020, singer Grimes gave birth to their son XAEA-X11. Yes, that's the name of their child. And in March 2022, the songstress, whose given name is Claire Boucher, revealed to Vanity Fair that she and Musk welcomed daughter Exa Dark Cityrail Musk. Sorry, the thing moved. Give me a second. Via surrogate in December 2021. News emerged in September 2023 that they welcomed their third child. These are so ridiculous. Techno Mechanicus, said to have arrived around June 2022. Techno Mechanicus. Meanwhile, the SpaceX founder also welcomed twins Strider and Azure. All right, a little more normal. With Neuralink Director of Operations and Special Projects Siobhan Zillis in November 2021. They welcomed a third child together sometime in early 2024. Here we go. St. Clair and Musk are seemingly not on good terms. In January 2026, the tech magnate threatened to sue for custody of their son. Though the social media star had already sued for sole custody of Romulus in February 2025. The threat came after St. Clair apologized via social media for what she called her own past blatant transphobia. I feel immense guilt for my role and even more guilt that things I've said in my past may have caused my son's and sister more pain. See, I mean, like, yeah. She tweeted in part referring to the Tesla founder's trans daughter, Vivian Wilson. She added, I don't really know how to make amends for many things, but I've been trying incredibly hard privately to learn and advocate for those in the trans community that I've hurt. Did she really ever say anything that bad? Like, I could maybe understand this if she said something absolutely appalling or something, but anyways, Musk responded via X at the time, I'll be filing for custody today, given her statements implying she might transition to one. Earlier told CNN anchor Aaron Burnett, I'm not at liberty to discuss it further, but I think anyone with more than third grade reading comprehension level knows what I was saying there. Okay, so Elon was saying in one of their back and forths, I think with her saying that she felt bad for her role with trans stuff, that I think Elon read into that she meant that she could possibly trans their kid or something. I don't know exactly what she's getting at with the trans thing, what she feels so bad about. I mean, I don't know, whatever. But with that, let's roll into the chat. Let's go on and get out of here. I do have a little bit of a longer outro. It's not as goofy this time around. I have for today's outro, we have a mutual out there making an appeal for help. I have not watched it yet. We're going to watch it together, and so we can kind of, you guys can be the judge of whether it's worthy for your support. But with that, let's roll the chat. Say some more good mornings. Say our goodbyes, all the like, and then we'll get out of here for today. And we will be back tomorrow. For the patrons, I have Austin coming on the show tonight to talk about part 2 of our Waco weirdness, essentially redoing one of our recent Already Deads, where he basically did half an episode on Waco. So we'll get into that. He's already got it canned and ready to go, it seems, so that should be a fun day. And also last night for the patrons, I have the weekly Wolfson episode. Me and Matt talked all stuff Massey, the Massey race, Ed Gallerine, all that stuff, prospects for where this could all go, yada, yada, yada. But with that, let's roll the chat one more time and get out of here. OG says, a nigga what killed me last night. Yeah. Tom says, my main issue with Massey is him not being conspiratorial enough. Tilla says, we need a straight schizo in office. Yup. Good morning, Northside says, would you guys hit for St. Clair? I mean, obviously, in the hypothetical, you're like single, like all these things, like, I mean, I guess it's nothing like special. Like, I don't know. She's definitely not like, oh my God, it's weird. A lot of people simped for her back in the day, and it's like, she's pretty. I mean, there's a lot of chicks out there. It's kind of astounding, the simp culture that's out there online, especially with like YouTubers and influencers. Like, pretty much most of the chicks that are being crazy simped for, like, they're generally pretty. Like, I feel bad even bringing that stuff up because you're like, I mean, it feels mean, like you're like saying these women are ugly, but it's like, no, they're just not like, it's not like there's a bunch of Sydney Sweeneys out there that are like out there twittering and people are like, oh my God, you're like, Ashley St. Clair is pretty damn peak mid. Like, I don't know. I know I sound mean. I'm not trying to be mean. Sorry out there if you're listening. You are a pretty lady, but it is kind of astounding the simp economy that's created around these sorts of women. Bugfight says Romulus is wild. It is wild. It's a nuts name. Good morning, JC. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Tara Jackson. Good morning. Good to see you here. I've been seeing you in the chat more recently. Saw you just come across some hard times and you're getting back through it. I hope everything's going well with you. But with that, guys, let's watch this outro. For this one, oh yeah, I got to give my plugs. If you really want to support the show, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can follow the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcasters, and Twitter as well. That's at Tower Gang Jose. If you want to support the show, the best way you can do with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020, or you can use the QR code up here in the top left-hand corner. Brings you the same exact place. You get a whole host of perks. You get access to early episodes. I try to do about 1 to 2 of those per week. Try to keep about 3 to 4 behind the paywall at any given time. Also give you guys access to ad-free RSS feed. Give you guys access to Telegram, to the pre-show, the post-show, and video calls. Me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Also, give a big shout out to the highest level of my Patreon is a big thank you for their support. My previous coach and Tower Gang, at Learn Toad. Also, at @BrigadeDs, at ZealVRCK, at _Vizil, at Tim Tuttle, at John Klebold. Big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Takas, 100 Cover Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, Jake Wintergrad of Biblical Energy Podcast, and that beautiful bastard, John Black. And with that, guys, I do have an outro for you. Let's go through this one together. Here is from Zark or Zork. I don't know if it's an O or an A. The Lost Audie. This is someone that I think I've been mutuals, I think, for a good while. I mean, I don't really know anything personally about this person. Hell, I don't even know if they're a male, female, what they look like, anything. Not that that's necessarily significant, but we're about to watch a video, so I don't know if that person is in the video. So I'm just up front letting you know what I know about this person. Obviously, I find them to be favorable, but that's just because obviously we're mutuals and we have engaged on Twitter here and there, likes, retweets, more the like. But I saw this at my feed, And I like to kind of share these kind of things occasionally. Hey, you're a mutual, especially if someone who engages occasionally. Like, hey, let's check this out. But here they are saying, help. I don't usually post about my personal life, but through a combination of poor self-defense laws and poor legal representation, my cousin has spent the last 18 years unjustly prisoned with a life sentence. Now we may have a chance to help reunite him with his family. Here's his 2-minute video that we'll watch, and we'll dig into a little bit more and get out of here soon.
In 2026, a man named Robert Ruark will find out whether he gets to come home to his family after nearly 2 decades or whether he'll continue to serve out his life sentence.
Now that decision could entirely depend on whether people get to hear this story and whether you get to see this story right now. Imagine this. Your teenage little brother is being held at gunpoint in your front yard, yet you are the one who's given a life sentence for saving him.
My name's Sue Paros, and I'm part of a growing coalition of legal experts, academics, advocates, and everyday Ohioans who refuse to accept what has happened to Robert J. Ruark.
I'm a teacher and I live and work in one of the most remote communities in Australia. A place where the land teaches patience and that all life has value, no matter how far away. So even all the way from here, I couldn't ignore what I'd discovered.
Robert's story began with a violent attack carried out by intoxicated neighbours who later admitted that they were drunk and high. They arrived armed, looking for a fight. One of them held a gun to Robert's little brother's head while 2 other men assaulted him and his family watched on helplessly. Multiple eyewitnesses were waiting outside the courtroom ready to testify. Yet none of this was ever heard by the judge or the jury. Why? Because of Robert's attorney, now permanently disbarred for dishonesty and misconduct, presented no witnesses, no evidence, and no defense at a murder trial.
This story needs to be heard. It needs to be heard right now.
You can create justice in less than a few minutes by signing a letter of support or checking out our documentary.
Head over to justiceforrobert.com.
All right, justiceforrobertruark.com. Sounds pretty compelling. I'll give this a retweet so you guys can check this out on my page. Zark says here, well, the state of Ohio has made changes to self-defense laws to address cases like my cousin so that if it occurred today, he could have never been charged. His chances of a fair trial at the time were destroyed by egregiously poor legal representation. Says my cousin tried to fire his attorney multiple times. However, his attorney manipulated the courts into thinking otherwise, allowing him to continue to represent my cousin's case, where he ultimately presented no case. This attorney was later permanently disbarred for many reasons. It says we are collecting signatures here to ask the governor for a commutation. He has served 18 years for a 31 life sentence, so he will have to spend another 13 years in prison before a chance at parole. While with a commutation, he will be immediately eligible. Says a documentary has also been made about this case, which can be viewed publicly by anyone in Ohio, but is not available elsewhere due to film festival restrictions. If anyone is unable to watch a documentary but interested in doing so, please DM me. I gave a retweet there for all the for the initial tweet, the initial video that we just watched, and then also for the 2 links for the to add your name to the signatures, and then also for the documentary if you'd like to go check that out. If you feel so compelled, help them out. This is one of ours. So, but with that, guys, let's go ahead and get out of here. I guess we could say a few more goodbyes. Here's Juan Deere. Good morning and goodbye. He says these people need to go hold of Chad Marks. He got his life sentence commuted, has changed mandatory sentence laws. He's gotten many people out of jail. Maybe that'd be helpful for sure. And good morning, stall owner. Saying that sucks. With that, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Love you all. Bye-bye.